There is a long-standing war between Cape buffalo and one of their main predators, lions.
An hour and a half, we eventually decided it was time to go and we left the male lion with the hyenas still feeding over this well-earned buffalo kill. Just amazing.
Cape buffalo defend their own against predators, but their hatred of lions runs so deep, herds will even help other animals under attack. At a waterhole, some buffalo are nearby when lionesses start stalking an impala.
The two females obviously decided he made a good dinner. So one of them moved slowly but very determinedly up the hill and sort of round behind him. When the buck saw her, he immediately took off and went slap into the one who was waiting, lying down. These buffalo were watching, and for some reason they took exception to what was going on. When the buffalo started to come towards the lions, we were thrilled. We thought if they really are going to come in and try to protect that buck and try to chase the lions away, it's going to be great to see, because we could see the buck wasn't dead yet. When the buffalo charged in, they all scattered, but not very far, and then came back, and they were determined to eat. And so the buffalo just repeatedly harassed them. So we were sort of cheering for the buffaloes. One particularly, an old bull, came forward, and he pushed at them. And the lionesses were very angry, but as soon as he stopped, they went forward again. And this went on a couple of times.
But the lionesses, who feast on meat every day, refuse to leave their kill.
We watched for a long time, but eventually the buffalo tired of it, and they ambled off and left the lions to eat in peace.
Hippos are dangerous. And when it comes to their young, hippo mothers are fiercely protective.
The family was on holiday in Mpumalanga at a lodge called Ingwenya, which overlooks the Crocodile River. There's 8 hippos that live there. I went out very early and I saw the mother returning from grazing with the calf next to her. As I was watching them, a movement on my left caught my eye. And I saw a lone lioness creeping in towards the mother with her calf.
Hippo cows only have a baby every few years, then keep them close to nurse and protect them. This calf is just days old.
The calf was behind her, and that I think was a huge mistake, because that was the opportunity she was waiting for to pounce.
There we go.
There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. My son turned around and said, look at that, look at that. And about 500 meters downstream, we noticed a mother with a calf, as if nothing had happened.
Despite their size, hippos are remarkably fast, able to keep pace even with a lion. And the cow's massive jaws could easily slice an animal in two.
The calf today is still alive. He lives in the same waterhole with the rest of the pod. But nobody knew what had happened to the lioness.
It's hard for an entire herd of buffalo to fight off a predator. But one extraordinary animal manages to escape 2 groups of carnivores.
One evening, we heard this buffalo distress call.
'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said, well, that's the end of the calf. 'There was just deadly silence. And everybody said,
transforming vehicle. When this youngish female buffalo was surrounded by 11 lions, sitting on the edge, just waiting.
To make matters worse, the water's infested with crocodiles.
She tried to escape. The lions surrounded her.
The buffalo faces drowning by the crocodiles or suffocation by the lions.
This happened throughout the evening, probably 8 to 9 times. She sometimes lay in the water for half an hour, up to an hour at a time.
Lions are good swimmers, but usually only enter the water if they have to. But as darkness descends, the tables turn. The failing light limits the vision of both predators, allowing the buffalo to make its final move.
We were there all night, and eventually she had maneuvered herself without them coming around the edge of the pan. She ran into a thickish area down a donga system and managed to shake them off. So it was a lucky ending for the buffalo.
Buffalo herds can range from hundreds to thousands. As two game rangers found out, that can be intimidating to both lions and tourists.
We heard that there was a herd of buffalo coming down to a river to drink, and so I positioned us on the opposite bank and we were watching the spectacle unfolding in front of us. I knew that there were lions not too far away, and sure enough, they heard the buffalo coming down to the river to drink and came over to investigate. Very shortly they started hunting the buffalo. The buffalo had no idea that the lions were there. I think the wind changed, or a single buffalo caught the scent and then alerted the rest of the herd. The youngsters made a rush at the buffalo, who got startled and rushed back up the bank. One of the other guides was viewing the buffalo and lions from the opposite bank.
I just happened to be on the same bank as the buffalo. As they came running away from the lions, they split up on either side of the vehicle.
Like parting the Red Sea, moved all the way around the vehicle. That must have been pretty frightening from his perspective.
The buffalo was sort of hiding behind the vehicle and looking around the corner. There were some that actually jostled the vehicle.
The buffalo are focusing on one thing: their mortal enemies.
You're gonna run away.
The buffalo just grouped together as a solid mass and just charged down the bank. You know, and the lions just couldn't stand there, but they didn't want to back down either.
One young lion ends up trapped behind a tree.
The big buffalo bull runs around and tries to get hold of him. Look at his tail thrashing. You can tell he's unhappy. Grab him, boy. Come on.
The tail thrashing could be a sign the lion is scared.
Thrashing his tail around. Look at that. Unbelievable. Hey? Can you believe it? You see that big bull? He'll take them on by himself. He really will.
lose a chance to dive underground.
That little mongoose changed everything because he started fighting back. That was the victor in that battle of wills.
Honey badgers are one of Africa's quirkier creatures. Known for raiding beehives, they're also remarkably brave, as game ranger Giles Kelmanson saw firsthand.
Honey badgers are very, very tenacious creatures. You can't hurt them with sledgehammers. Absolutely fearless.
On a late-day game drive, Kelmanson and his guests made one last stop to observe 6 lions.
There was 2 adult lionesses in the pride and 4 subadults. We were about ready to leave, I think, and I all of a sudden saw 2 honey badgers pop out of the reeds. When they came out of the reeds, the honey badgers literally walked into the middle of the lions. The subadults immediately took action.
The 2 older lionesses stand back while the 4 younger ones attack. Then, a surprise.
They make the most remarkable sound. It's this grrr, they rattle a lot when they are agitated. And it's quite a fearsome noise to hear, so it intimidates the lions, I'm sure.
Guys, look at this.
Badgers also have razor-sharp teeth and claws.
I think that the lionesses knew what these things were and they didn't want to get involved. And the youngsters hadn't had much experience with this, so they were just playfully going for them and swatting them around a bit, and then it got more serious when the honey badgers started reacting and attacking the youngsters. And then even more so when the lionesses suddenly got involved and the one lioness severely mauled the one badger. She bit it across the midriff. Here you can see it was sort of in the sand and her whole mouth pretty much covered most of the honey badgers.
But the badger has one more defense mechanism.
The honey badger has this incredible ability to rotate almost completely in its own skin. It's got very loose skin. And it turned around and bit her on the nose, fortunately severely enough for her to let go. And she let it go, and the honey badger ran right back in to try and get some more of the lion. They are such tough creatures and so ferocious that they managed to beat up the 6 lions. Incredible. Luckily, both honey badgers got away fairly unscathed, and I think the poor lioness was a little worse for wear.
Few animals have family circles as tight-knit as the elephant. In herds, mothers keep their young with them for years, and they don't like surprise visitors.
The dogs were about to get active late afternoon to go out hunting. Just as they had moved less than 100 meters from the den, they encountered a breeding herd of elephant.
It's rare for wild dogs to attack elephants. They're simply too big. But the cows see all predators as a potential threat to their young. One elephant mock charges, trumpeting and flapping its ears as a warning.
The dogs would turn around, back off a couple of meters. And as soon as the elephant had stopped and walked back to the herd, the dogs would turn around and follow them again.
The herd forms a wall around its young.
The elephants try and lash out at the dogs even with their trunks if they get close enough, but the dogs are just so much quicker.
Then, one elephant's had enough. Her silence and curled trunk are a sign she's willing to kill.
The cows were charging the dogs with serious intent to do some harm.
Finally, the pack gets the message. Leopards are one of nature's most elusive hunters. Solitary creatures, they strike at night, then hide in trees to feast. But one leopard's plans were derailed by an unwelcome intruder.
We were just up for our sundowner game drive. In the distance, we heard some warning calls of our dominant male leopard. Immediately, I got all the guests together and we decided we would go and investigate and find out what they were up to. And about 4 or 5 miles from where we were located, we got sight of the leopard. Suddenly, we noticed that there was further activity of some other smaller animal in the grass ahead of where the leopard was moving towards.
But no one can see what the leopard is stalking.
Go to water.
Yeah.
One of the key reasons why the warthog will squeal and make as much noise as possible is to distract the predator from finding the lockdown position, which is generally under the jaw of the warthog.
Then, an unexpected visitor arrives.
Suddenly, a female hyena came out of the bush. The leopard jumped off, and the hyena, realizing how close she actually was to the leopard, still active in the kill mode, decided to step back as well.
To recap, the leopard attacks the warthog, then the hyena attacks the leopard. The hyena has second thoughts, and everybody walks away.
Which left the warthog standing there completely surprised, not understanding, I think, quite what had happened.
Not surprisingly, the warthog doesn't stick around. Wild dogs are efficient hunters, with a higher kill rate than even lions. Older generations pass down skills to younger ones, but those lessons can be hard-earned.
I was lucky enough to be working in northern Botswana, where I had a pack on the property. And I spent 6 years observing this wild dog pack. Every year that puppies are born, usually they're born with white tips to the tail. And 1 year, one dog was born with a black tip to the tail.
Safari guide Mark Tennant took a particular interest in the pup, which he named, appropriately, Black Tip. One afternoon, the dogs rally for a hunt. Black Tip is too young to help with the kill, but tags along.
The alpha male and female led the pack, and they saw wildebeest in the distance. Usually when the prey see a wild dog coming, they run like hell. But on this occasion, the wildebeest decided to stand their ground.
They're being the aggressor, defending themselves by being aggressive.
You had wildebeest chasing dogs and vice versa. And I just didn't even know which way to point my camera. There was so much action. Then all of a sudden, the big dominant male wildebeest, he broke from the herd and he started running at full speed.
The wildebeest targets Black Tip.
Oh my God.
Black Tip is tiny compared to the bulk of the wildebeest, who's 14 times her size, and its horns could withstand the blow of an axe.
I thought she was dead. Then all of a sudden, all the dogs ran up towards her and started smelling her, and they started making this unusual sound. And they just went absolutely wild, running after those wildebeest. I lost focus of the battle, and I just saw this dog lying there, my favorite dog, Black Tip. And while I was just staring at this, 3 or 4 minutes later, I noticed the twitch of an ear. Maybe Black Tip wasn't dead.
They're visibly more angry. It's up! The little one got up! The one that got attacked got up!
You could see the pain in her body. And I was just praying that the wildebeest didn't notice this and go after it and kill her. But luckily, the wild dogs managed to distract the wildebeest long enough, and she limped out of that area, lucky to have lived.
Cape buffalo work together to protect their young, surrounding calves when predators approach. But some calves can't be saved.
When I arrived, the cow was standing over the calf and the leopard was in the grass.
Leopards eat their prey in trees to keep it from scavengers. But the grieving cow interferes. The leopard moves in, but must steer clear of the buffalo's horns, which could easily maul him.
She attacked the tree. She was actually trying to shake the leopard out of the tree. You could see the leopard had its claws in the bark, was just hanging on. She was very frustrated. She was growling at this leopard.
It's rare for a single buffalo to attack without its herd. Despite being alone, the cow could trample the leopard to death. She's massive in comparison. But after a 12-hour standoff, the buffalo seems to relent.
She moved away 300 meters from the dead calf. And in my mind, she was leaving the scene. And the leopard was fooled as well, because it came down the tree and it started feeding on the calf. And the buffalo mother circles back behind my Jeep. And I remember turning and just filming the buffalo, like, almost stalking. She used the Jeep as a shield. Then she charges around the front.
But she fails.
Her one chance that she'd had was gone. As the sun was setting, she finally decided that under cover of darkness, it wouldn't be wise to stay there as a single buffalo, so she went back to the herd.
Black-backed jackals are cunning creatures. In some cases, they're even able to outsmart the fastest cats.
So this was my first shoot in the African bush. We did a trip to Botswana. Our main focus for the day was to film cheetah and their various day-to-day happenings, but what unfolded in front of us was just amazing. As they were just relaxing in the heat of the sun, we basically saw the one getting pretty interested in something behind us, and there was this jackal circling and just pushing in a little bit closer every second.
Few are willing to cross paths with a cheetah, the fastest land animal on Earth. But the jackal persists.
Before you knew it, the chase was on.
The jackal's yelp could be a warning signal.
We decided that the jackal were probably denning in the area, and we're just trying to put enough pressure on the cheetah to move them out the area before they found the den and the pups. The jackal keeps coming closer and closer, and just circling and pushing and pushing and pushing, just to give them enough irritation to try and get them out of the jackal's area. We thought this jackal's going to get eaten, but before you knew it, it had escaped. It was amazing. You could clearly see that the cheetah wasn't messing around. I think it meant business. But the agility of the jackal and its size just made it so difficult to catch.
The cheetah eventually gives up, and the film crew calls it a night.
The next morning, we went to go and check up on our theory, and there we found those exact two jackal in their den with two pups.
When leopards hunt, they stalk their prey silently, then pounce at the last minute. But one young female seems to forget all that when she's reintroduced to the wild.
So one morning she goes out and starts to stalk a herd of zebra. Now zebra are not really known as a dangerous prey animal. The herd stallion whipped around, took one look at the size of this leopard, said, "This leopard can't do anything to me, I'll attack it." Fortunately, she ran for her life, but the stallion was right on her and he was chopping with his front feet. And in one moment, I thought, this is the end of my leopard. So I fired shots in the air.
The distraction saves the leopard's life.
You would think that experience would have taught her a whole lot. Well, apparently she didn't learn that much.
A few days later, the cat targets a male antelope called a puku with sword-like horns.
So out she goes into a game of cat and mouse, life and death. The puku's trying to stab her. She jumps away, dances away, circles the puku. Again, I'm in two minds. Should I fire shots or should I let it go? One stab from that puku's horns would have been the end of the leopard.
But luck is on the leopard's side.
It was just her agility at the last minute which saved her.
Hopefully, this time, the leopard has learned her lesson. Warthogs put up incredible fights to defend themselves. And in rare instances, they'll even go on the offensive.
Me and my wife were together on this trip. We were driving down this dirt road next to the Sabi River. There were these 4 little warthogs running next to the car. A little mother, father, and the 2 babies. They were just trotting along. All of a sudden, they swerved in front of the car and they went into the bushes to graze. That was when we saw the cheetahs lying under a tree. I really thought that today was the day they're going to be lunch. The warthogs just carried on grazing and slowly getting very close to these cheetahs.
But the cheetahs seem hesitant to attack. And the warthogs sense it.
The warthogs teamed up and, like one pack, they chased into these cheetahs. It was unbelievable. It was as if the warthogs were teasing the cheetahs.
Hyena cubs don't start hunting till they're a year old, but some youngsters are more ambitious than others.
I saw this hyena trying to get into the stormwater pipe. I couldn't see what was going on the inside.
A strange sound is coming from the pipe. It's a newborn cub, acting strangely.
The small cup came out, and then the small cup went back. You could see there was something else within that stormwater pipe.
Suddenly, out pops a warthog. The pigs back into burrows to dodge predators, then make their escape. But the cub has foiled that plan.
When the warthog came out of the hole, it was trapped between the stormwater pipe and all the hyenas. The warthog had to get away.
Female hyenas are fiercely protective of their young. which the warthog uses to his advantage.
The hyena cup was thrown into the air.
The distraction works. The cub is shaken, but unharmed.
It was a happy ending to see the warthog also got away, with the mom returning and the cub safe within the stormwater pipe.
Mongooses live in groups, sleeping together and changing dens often to avoid predators. But wild dogs have a way of tracking them down.
They managed to isolate the group in the middle of a dry riverbed. They actively herded them away from the bank so that they couldn't get into the bush.
The mongooses launch a mob attack.
The mongoose piled on top of each other. They had their little mouths facing in all directions and they just snap away at the dogs every time the dogs try to nip them.
It looks like a losing battle until one mongoose gets separated from the group. He distracts the dogs just long enough for his family to escape.
He made a run for it. It actually went underneath my vehicle and straight into the engine. I had to open up the engine. This thing was on the top there, and then he went inside between the pipes, and that must have been pretty hot, but I suppose it at least was safer than fighting with the wild dogs. And it took a little bit of gentle persuasion and prodding to get this guy out, and he eventually dropped down and also went up to the side to the riverbank, and yeah, he was fine.
Elands, a kind of antelope, work hard to protect their calves. Females take turns guarding all the herd's young, but sometimes they're simply outmatched.
We were performing in the Tuli block in Botswana, and we were just driving along, and I heard hyenas whooping. So we raced over to where we heard the sound and came upon the scene of an eland that's foal had just been killed. And the mother was standing vigilant over the calf.
The mother is surrounded by predators, but bravely chases them off.
She was standing guard like this for ages, but every now and then she would come back, give the calf a lick, maybe trying to get it to get up.
As the battle continues, the mother starts to flag.
It was mid-morning already and getting extremely hot. And at this point, she'd been going at it for over 2 hours already and hadn't rested for a second.
The hyena's howls bring in more of their pack.
She actually began drooling from all the effort. At one point, she was chasing around 3 hyenas, and she just didn't know which way to go. And then a 4th hyena came and ran after the calf. I was incredibly moved by this mother eland defending this little dead calf. Just the stamina and vigilance she displayed was touching.
Each year, around 1.5 million wildebeest thunder across Africa in the Great Migration. For the cheetah, it's an opportune time.
I was in the Maasai Mara and the wildebeest migration was in full swing. following this big male cheetah. And I see him target the herd, and I think he must be going for one of the calves. He burns across the grassland 100 kilometers an hour. The acceleration was incredible. The impact is huge. The leg of the wildebeest snaps. The herd bull responds immediately, forcing the cheetah off the saddle. Bull saves the calf's life. Tries again for the wounded wildebeest. Bull revs him again.
Because cheetahs are smaller animals, they're often easily chased from their prey.
But that wildebeest's chance of survival are virtually nil. Hyenas will pick it up live.